I don't want to lose FromSoft. Okay, so I've seen some discussion kind of get out of control with the whole Sony acquiring FromSoftware thing. Naturally, I think we should just wait and see what actually happens, but I really don't see this to be the end of FromSoft, but like seriously. But it's so wild seeing people like react to this sort of thing, like this post exactly. This leak of Sony's acquisition of Kadokawa hit me deep. I don't want to see FromSoft lose creative freedom because of Sony. What? Like, I just don't see how that's gonna happen. Why would Sony want their games to be worse? You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna acquire FromSoft just to, start telling them what to do, and I don't think that's gonna be the case. Now, they might work FromSoftware a bit harder than than we're used to. We might see like 2 Dark Souls games a year or something. Probably not, but yeah. So creative freedom, I think they still have, but I do think FromSoftware is going to be under a lot of crunch to get games out. But we'll see. This is why I'm saying wait and see, because honestly, just trying to theorize what could happen. Anything could happen. Who knows? Miyazaki could retire. Like, could you imagine? My biggest concerns are, what if FromSoft games go to PlayStation exclusive? Only Bloodborne and Demon Souls are full PlayStation exclusives. Well, see, that too, like the Demon Souls remake came out really well. Bloodborne, honestly, the performance wasn't great, but still regarded as probably one of the best Souls games of all time, if not the best. And you kind of have like a partnership between Sony and FromSoft with those 2 games right there. I just don't understand where people are kind of like freaking out about this. Now, I can see where things can go wrong, but I don't think the quality of the games should really come into question at all. But who knows? What if FromSoft games become monetized like Ubisoft-like titles? Like, why? Like, what? What do you make? Dude, could you imagine the blowback if they added a battle pass into a FromSoftware game? I couldn't imagine anything. I couldn't imagine anything being more controversial and making people freak out. Like the waves of madness that would be going on social media if something like that happened. Dude, no shot. Like, I can't even think of anything close. Like, honestly. Maybe the whole Helldivers 2 Sony situation. But, like, see, that's a good example as well. If that is the extent of it, then I don't find that to be that big of a deal. However, I do want to play Demon Souls Remake, but I recently did get a PS5, so I am a bit biased here. Now, if you only had PC, I can see where these 2 top issues are going to be like kind of an issue. I just don't see it happening really, because here's the thing. Square Enix already came out and said they wanted to sell their games on different platforms. And even though Sony might be able to strong arm them into only selling their games on the PlayStation, I still think that is a tell in the way the industry is going to start, leading towards. Is there's really no need for, at least most of the time, there's really no need for exclusives. And if Square Enix is going to come out and say they're losing money because of it, I don't think Sony's going to double down on a losing strategy, or at least something that is trending downwards. So I don't know. I'm really, these top 2 issues I'm really not too concerned about as far as exclusivity and like monetization, like not really an issue, or even signing into a Sony email address, because they already buckled on that. So I don't know. I feel like Sony is kind of ready for something like this, like I genuinely think this could go well. Like, who knows? What if they are forced to do remasters? What about a Dark Souls 3 remaster leak? Now, I heard about that as well. Oh man, time's already gone. I don't want to rant too much about a Dark Souls 3 remaster, but that is an interesting leak of what they are capable of doing, because you can imagine a Dark Souls 3 remaster, or maybe even a Bloodborne remaster, is going to be really expensive. However, at the same time, I do think the Bloodborne remaster will make a lot of money. And I just think if Sony really wanted that to happen, the Bloodborne remaster, they would want most of the profit. So I can see if they're thinking of, okay, let's acquire FromSoft, we can make Bloodborne the remaster or something, Bloodborne 2. However, now we are gaining most of the money from the IP, but it's essentially you're gonna have to educate me that. You're gonna have to educate me on that down in the comments. But I do believe Sony owns the intellectual property of Bloodborne. So I feel like this is the only way Sony would be okay with remastering or making a Bloodborne 2 is if they basically own Fromsoftware and reap most of the benefits from it. Which, it's hard to say if that's the right thing or, how it's going to turn out. But if that is the only way we get a Bloodborne remaster, I think this is probably worth it, to be honest. But it does kind of sound a lot like what Sony, as far as movies were going, how Sony was dealing with Marvel, where Marvel kind of bought Spider-Man, kind of reaped the benefits. I think Sony's trying to, backtrack that. They kind of learned their mistakes in that, and they're trying to now strong arm Fromsoftware and potentially into working a Bloodborne remaster. Because we never heard from Fromsoftware if they ever actually wanted to make a Bloodborne 2 or a Bloodborne remaster. So, I don't know. I definitely can see this going badly, but I can also see the good in it. So, you could say it's copium, but I do believe this would be one of the only ways that we could get a Bloodborne remaster, is if Sony kind of goes all in on it. You know what I mean? Helldivers 2 incident by requiring PSN account. Yeah, we just talked about that. Sony buckled. Dude, Helldivers 2 had a lot of hype, but I do believe the blowback and honestly just the absolute storm of rage if they ever did something like that for FromSoft. It's just insane. No shot they could pull that off. What if Sony forces From to make movie-like games? I hate Sony games because they are movies first, then games instead. Okay, look, I'm with that, but again, I don't see how Sony would find it to be a smart thing to acquire a studio that's specifically, they make games very specific. They have their own niche. It's literally called Souls games. Why would they make them do something else? that just feels like you're going into I don't know. It's like you're sitting your best player, like on a sports team or whatever. This is why I love From. They create games, not movies. No, I agree. I don't like most of the first, the one-player games either. However, I am enjoying Final Fantasy Rebirth right now. It's very, very good. But ultimately, I just don't see how this is going to be possible. I don't see how anyone who would be comfortable with buying Fromsoftware who would want them to do something else. Now, I did hear G talk about how Sony acquired the Ratchet and Clank guys, and then they started working on other games that weren't Ratchet and Clank, and I think that's a good point. That is something that's definitely possible. Frankly, I feel like if something like that happened, Miyazaki would retire or something like that. We would see something dramatic happen, and that would kind of be the tell of where this is going. So, it's a wait and see. I am kind of coping a little bit with the Bloodborne remake thing, but I still think that is essentially true. I don't know. We would have had we had a Demon Souls remaster, or it's a remaster. I'm pretty sure it's a remaster. Either way, that including with that Dark Souls 3 remaster as well, they're definitely looking into remastering games. So I don't know. It is kind of weird we got that leak, and then we also got the Sony leak as well. What about Armored Core? Will it just be left in the dust like Bloodborne? Oh, I hope not. But actually, this is actually I think this is a valid concern, to be honest. They're lesser known franchises. Sony would essentially be able to say, no, we want you to make Souls games. We don't want Armored Core, and that would be unfortunate. I'm looking forward to see if we get an Armored Core DLC or anything like that. Holy minutes. I'm definitely breaking this down. We'll definitely go into comments also, but yeah, I don't know. I was talking about this with my friends, and they were kind of skeptical as well, and I was just kind of mentioning look, there are games. Sony has 2 games they're responsible for in Game of the Year. They've been responsible for a Game of the Year nomination for 10 consecutive years or something insane. That could be a little bit of hyperbole, but they are good at making games. I don't know. Now, it's the drawbacks really would be crunch and work. They just have a lot on their plate at FromSoft, and I'm not too sure if they're going to be able to handle it. But yeah, so this could either crash FromSoftware or we get Bloodborne remake. Nah, I don't think it's gonna crash FromSoftware. We will always get Dark Souls games. Bungie's example is the worst. Well, dude, Wait, hold on. I've actually played Destiny 2, and I'm pretty sure Bungie was kind of dropping the ball on that, and Sony literally needed to step in and control what was happening. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know, but I'm pretty sure that's actually a good example for Sony of stepping into a company that's failing their game, and then, but however, it was monetized incredibly poorly. So, I don't know. Okay, maybe it's not the best example, because yeah, they kind of tried to like sell everything they could in Destiny 2. The monetization was terrible, but you can't say Bungie wasn't going to do that anyway, to be honest. However, if Fromsoftware gets freedom to work on anything at once, but with Sony's budget, then that's great. But I fear this is just too good to be true. I wish Fromsoftware could remain as is. Okay, yeah, we're gonna go into some comments, but yeah, they do bring up the point that I wanted to kind of land on, is the fact that they are going to have they're gonna have everything they need to remake Bloodborne or Bloodborne 2. Like now everything's the puzzle pieces are there. So this is one way to cope about it, is we are likely to get some sort of Bloodborne revisit, maybe. Who knows? We'll see. But I'm holding on to that. I think it's possible. It's filled with lots of drama queens. They will not lose freedom, creativity, much less quality. Just look at Astrobot. It's a Japanese game funded by Sony, the highest rated standalone video game of the year, and is the most nominated game for this year, alongside Final Fantasy. Everything is going to be okay. I completely agree with this. I'm literally playing Rebirth and Astrobot right now on a PS5 Pro. I don't even have a PS5. I wanted to get a PS5, but I definitely thought a Pro would be more appropriate, and I'm glad I did, because apparently Rebirth doesn't run great on a regular PS5 for whatever reason. But yeah, true. Astrobot and Rebirth. Like, it's ridiculous to think Sony would just be okay with Fromsoftware just putting in bad games for whatever reason, or making them do something different. But yeah, speaking of drama, I do think, hold on, I have a good meme for this. It was a good run, gentlemen. It is Bowser, who's Sony, looking at Mario, who's the fans, and they're taking the pineapple off of FromSoft. It's so stupid. But like, look, that Mario emote is like legit, like that's kind of how some of these people are acting. I just think people need to calm down. Like, this is like, Sony has such a good track record with Fromsoftware. It's so silly to just be like, oh man, they're gonna take the pineapple off of the pizza. Which is like kind of crazy. It's kind of a crazy metaphor. It's like people could take that in so many different ways, but I can't get over this. It's just corporate greed. like, look, that is a legit concern. I get it, but like, FromSoft is one of the one games everyone or one of the one devs or the company that just everyone trusts, you know, and Sony doesn't really miss. So I don't see how. This is like exactly what I'm paying for, you know what I mean? So as long as they deliver me a good game, I don't mind paying for it. The continuous shrinking of the video game biosphere is not a good thing. Not to say this will be doom and gloom, but it's bad overall for gamers. Yeah, I did hear they're acquiring the company because Sony's gonna, you know, start going crazy in anime. Apparently they're gonna be an anime monopoly somehow. I mean, we'll see, but yeah, I ultimately agree with that, but it's just weird. It's like, would we be okay with the shrinking of video game biospheres if we just keep getting good games? Like, how many people do you think are actually going to complain about that if they're not even interested in working in the business to begin with? Like, worrying about stuff like that, it means you're kind of like a dev or something. You don't want friends to be fired and all that. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, dude, that type of stuff sucks. There's not a lot I could say about that. Yeah, but again, nobody's really going to make a thing out of it unless they make bad games, and that's the unfortunate but also the reality of it. It's hard to drive creative practices when you're beholden to shareholders, where the drive is purely money. Yeah, again, though, I think Sony understands where the money's at. The money's in making good games. The money from these big companies also drown out good games from smaller developers. Okay, now that's true, but Video Game Donkey did. I get it, he's a YouTuber, but he did make an indie game, and it came out pretty good. I think there's an avenue to approach in all sectors of this, but yeah, ultimately, yes, a lot of the corporate greed in video games sucks, but if Sony's extent of that is you have to sign into a PlayStation account to play Helldivers 2, I think that's better than what we normally see. Anyone seriously thinking that Sony isn't aware of the demand for Bloodborne is crazy, in my opinion. They must have a reason to not do anything with the IP, considering it would be very easy for them to make a quick buck with a simple remaster. So apparently Sony releases PlayStation exclusives on PC, but 2 years later, yeah, that's very true. But yeah, and they didn't do it for Bloodborne. Actually, that's a pretty good case study of their approach to Bloodborne. It seems very careful. I remember when people said they were okay with timed exclusives as long as they get a chance to play those games, and now even that is an issue. But, okay, I get that. I do think it hurts their business model, and I think certain, companies are feeling it a bit. But yeah, basically you're just going to be releasing it on everything, and it's kind of like a why not. Funny how exclusives are only ever really a problem when it's about console games. Guess it's fine that LoL, WoW, CS, Portal, and many more games are exclusives then. Yeah, but see, yeah, again, that's kind of going at the overreaction, but I mean, I could see, actually no, I could not see League of Legends on console. Playing League of Legends with a paddle would be kind of crazy. WoW I could see on console, probably. Portal, kind of crazy. I played the orange box on a 360, so I don't know. All this stuff is possible for the most part. By the way, I am aware of the fact that some of Valve's games had a console port, but none if their games are currently available on console, so it doesn't matter. I guess we're talking about the orange box. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't want to be that guy just say go get a PS5 if you're worried about it, but you do have to look at it realistically and imagine that the only people who are really going to be hurting, are people who are playing on Xbox, which sucks. Poor Xbox players, man. They're getting the brunt of the Sony acquisition and also have a really small PvP player base for Elden Ring. No, but again, just let me know how you feel about this in the comments, because I do see some good points, but this is going to be something that I have a feeling is going to be a work in progress. But yeah, Sony is definitely aware of the demand for Bloodborne and has been very careful with the IP for a while. So if they were making a big move like this, I do believe it has something to do with Bloodborne, considering they're trying to acquire the devs who made it. So I don't know. We'll see. Keep an eye out for Miyazaki if he says anything crazy. Let me know if Miyazaki ever said he wanted to make Bloodborne, but I'm pretty sure he said talk to Sony about it or something.